company or a country is the global search for and appropriation of new ideas. You don't have to develop these ideas yourself. You have to find them and adapt them and use them, and that takes know-how. It takes know-how to do that. That's really what I'd like to talk to you a little about today. Because the world has so shifted. The economy, the global economy has so shifted.
But then I'll do my best with the topic that's been given. And it's all adding on to this first part of this TopEx conference that's looking at productivity. Three issues that I'd like to cover. First of all, try to look at the health and productivity linkage. And I'd like to raise some issues on the health trends. A lot of these health trends are things that you might be familiar with. I'll talk about them because I think they're very important. Very important for us in this country. First of all, just looking at the concept of health itself. Health is something that we talk about, and there's a lot of different kind of definitions of health. This particular definition of health is the one that's currently used in the Ministry of Health. It's a definition that has been put out by the World Health Organization. It actually appeared in the Constitution of the World Health Organization back in 1948. So it's been around for some time. If you look at that definition, it says health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Normally, when one thinks of health, one only thinks of you're healthy when you don't have diseases, or when you're fit, and there's nothing wrong with it. This definition says no, health is more than that. It's not just the absence of disease, but it's also about your state that you're in, the state of physical well-being, your state of mental well-being, and state of social well-being. So health is not just about the absence of these, but the state of mind that you're in, and the state of your physical abilities and state of your mental abilities. That's the first thing about this definition. A lot of people don't like this definition because they think it's a bit utopian. You have the word there, complete. Who can be in complete physical, complete mental, and complete social well-being at all times? It's almost impossible. There are times that you're going to feel bad. Some people think of this definition as more about happiness rather than health. But that's when we talk about health, we're talking about these concepts. Maybe not complete well-being physically, mentally, and socially, but at least most of the time. The absence of disease, but your status of well-being in these three different parameters that we have. That is health on its own, and we're trying to combine this idea with the idea of productivity. That's the definition of productivity that we all know about, the definition of productivity, the inputs that you put in. Today we heard about the importance of that aspect of productivity is the knowledge that you have. Knowledge in a country, knowledge in an organization, knowledge in human beings. But productivity, we all know, it's the ratio between what you put in and what you get out. That's what it is. All your land, your labor, your capital, your knowledge, the ways in which you carry out your work, your processes, your systems, the way you put your government together, all of these things. All of these things determine what you get out as an output. And it measures how efficiently production inputs such as labor, capital are being used in an economy to produce a given level of output. In the talk that I have to give here, it's the idea of linking these two concepts, the impact of health on productivity. Now normally, when you talk about linking health and productivity, we say it's just common sense. Obviously, if productivity is a function of what you get out of your inputs, and if you have better quality inputs, you have better quality output. If you have better quality of healthy individuals, common sense would dictate that if you have healthy individuals, it is likely that you will get a better output. That's what common sense is. All of us tend to believe that. One of the difficulties has been to get empirical evidence to actually say that this is what actually happens. So in common sense, it all seems to make sense. Productivity is input over output. If you have better quality inputs, you get better outputs. That's a theoretical bit. But I thought, other than the common sense, just to try to look at some of the researchers, to get like some of the staff of the Ministry of Health, just to find if you can find some research that shows that it actually works, that there is some empirical evidence. So they found some bits of research. One was this study here, that was done by this gentleman called Cole. And he looked at some very poor countries around the world and tried to analyze if there was a relationship between the health of the people in that country and the total factor productivity in those countries. Total factor productivity, normally you look at productivity of land, labor, and capital, anything left over is called total factor productivity. It's the sum. It's determined by total factor productivity. Is determined by how efficiently you are using your inputs into your production process. How efficiently you use your land, your labor, your processes. It's about the smartness in using your inputs. And interestingly, I won't go into the details of this, but even in these countries that he studied, he looked at things like malnutrition, malaria, and waterborne disease. We don't have malaria in Fiji. We have malnutrition. We also have a lot of obesity in our country. And but he was able to, I think the important thing from my point of view is that he was, from studies such as this, they are able to identify that at a national level, they're able to show that there is a linkage between health of the population at large and total factor productivity. It's the level of efficiency of use of resources. In other words, they're trying to say if you have a healthier population, you're able to utilize those people much better so that you get better outputs. If you have populations that are not so healthy, they won't be working as well as they could, so you'll get lower outputs. That was the finding from this. So while the conditions are different, Fiji is not amongst the poorest countries in the world, but I think that finding, can also apply to Fiji. The academics can prove me wrong in that area, but that was the first thing that I found in this particular study. Secondly, we looked at another study. This was looking at a group of companies in the United States. Looked at around 10 companies. It's conducted by this gentleman called, I hope I can pronounce his name correctly, Loatki, I think is how it is. He looked at a number of companies, looked at it, had 10 employees, looking at their employees, and they used this tool called the Health and Work Performance Questionnaire. This is a tool developed by the World Health Organization. And what they try to do in this tool, it's you assess yourself to see if you have been sick, what has the impact of that been on your work, whether it has affected your absenteeism or this new term that we call presenteeism. Absenteeism is when you are not at work. Presenteeism is when you are at work but you are not able to function as well as you can because you're not totally healthy or something's wrong with you, physically, mentally, or socially. So in order to try to estimate presenteeism, I think this is probably the only way that you can do it. You get self-questionnaires. People, I've been sick this past week, how has it affected my work? Have I been able to give fully of myself? Have I been present but not fully capable of performing at the optimal level? So they tried to establish the relationship in this, and they also looked at the cost of workers getting sick. And in the United States, probably a lot of you in the private sector, you pay for the health of your workers. So there's a joint partnership. So in the United States, it's like that. A lot of others in Fiji, we don't get that. We have to pay for it ourselves. So they looked at also at the medical claims and the pharmacy claims for those that they were sick. And they analyzed the association between the health conditions and how people were being absent, or health conditions and absenteeism and presenteeism. I just showed these numbers. No, I can't get any figures in Fiji, but it astounded me to show that in America, approximately from this study, they spent about $13,000 per employee per year on total direct and indirect health. They had an estimate there that the overall annual cost impact of poor health on the workplace was at 1.8 trillion. And from this study, they showed that there was a high prevalence of non-communicable diseases among the surveyed workers, ranging from chronic respiratory disorders, mental health conditions, to heart disease. Those are pretty big numbers. But what did they find in the studies? They found, one of the important findings that they found, they compared the cost of medicine and pharmacy costs relative to the value of absenteeism and presenteeism. And they found that there was a 2.3 to 1 ratio between the value of absenteeism and presenteeism to the value of the medicines and pharmacies, and the medicines, the medical costs and the pharmaceutical costs. So they're showing that from these studies, even though it's self-reporting, that a lot of the cost in terms of the loss of productivity is coming from absenteeism and presenteeism. That was one study. They also found these chronic conditions that are having an impact, comorbidities. They also found that executive and managers experiences much more productivity loss from depression and back pain as laborers and operators. And the conclusions that they came to, that there was a strong link between health and productivity. And they also suggested that there's a lot of benefit from companies if they're able to look at their productivity data and relate it to the health data. They might be able to, as a result of that, develop effective workplace health, human capital investment strategies. I will show you some of the graphs that came on this. I hope you can see this. It says the top 10 health conditions by annual medical drug absenteeism and presenteeism cost per 1,000 full-time employees. It's got the different things that they have here. This dark shaded thing is medical costs. The gray one is the drugs. Then this one here is absenteeism, and this one is presenteeism. Absenteeism when you're not at work, presenteeism you're at work but just not able to give fully of yourself. So for depression, you can see the ratio that is cost in terms of medical costs and drugs, but the ratio for absenteeism and presenteeism is much higher. Presenteeism is something that we don't account for a lot. So in a lot of all of these different areas, whether it's depression presenteeism is very high. In obesity, in arthritis, it gets lower, but there's quite a significant portion of the value of the loss in terms of output is coming from absenteeism and presenteeism, which is arising from people being sick, whether it's physically or mentally. That's the purpose of that this particular slide. And that goes back to the, this is where they got this ratio that they have here, that there was a ratio of 2.3 to 1. So the high cost of absenteeism and presenteeism obviously has an impact on an organization. This particular study we looked at, I just report this because the numbers are so big to me. So many, we don't even have million workers here. But together in the US, from this particular study, look at some of the, where's my last one? They're talking about labor time lost due to health reasons represent loss of economic output totaling 260 billion per year. That's a huge amount for the United States of America. Before I go to this, so what I can say, that from the research, so sometimes it's hard to prove empirically that there's a direct relationship between health, and I've also seen some studies on occupational health and safety, OHS, and productivity. Sometimes it's hard to prove empirically, but there seems to be an indication that there is a strong link between the two. Common sense tells us that there is, but empirically, not so clear, but there seems to be a lot of people in agreement that there is a relationship between the two. The other thing that I thought I'd just mention here, in terms of population and health in Fiji, our population has been increasing, not increasing at very high rates. We still have a fairly young population. We're getting a higher educated workforce. We have the education discussions after this. There's a lot of talk about getting our young more educated, but as the project has mentioned, it's not just the degrees, it's about your ability to do things and know things that impact on your productivity. I think one of the things that's very important for us also when we talk about health and productivity is to realize also the change in the makeup of our population over the next few years. The estimates that we've been working on in the Ministry of Health suggest that our population will continue to rise up to around 2030, and they're suggesting that it may plateau. It will plateau because our growth rates are not that high. Those projections could be correct or they could not be correct. But if the age, normally in the age distribution in the normal countries, it normally goes up like this. The young to the old goes up like this. Ours in 2030 is looking to be like this. From the young, go up like that. So you'll have a lot more people in the middle age groups, and the projected proportion of our young will decrease. If you have a lot more of your population that are older, it's going to have an impact on the number of people that have diseases like NCDs, which tend to get us when we are older. Non-communicable disease, that is going to be, so it's projected the cost of the NCDs could be increasing. I thought I'd just mention here, and I hope you can see this particular slide. In terms of Fiji, this slide is just looking at years of lost life. Years of lost life quantifies premature mortality by weighting younger deaths more than older deaths. So it's looking at what is having a big impact on this country. In 1990, these were the biggest killers in Fiji. Heart disease, stroke, lower respiratory infections, preterm birth complications, this is for young children, diabetes, neonatal, I'm not too sure how to pronounce this word, but it's to do with young children that is just being born, meningitis. To move from 1990 to 2010. 2010, heart disease is still the major killer, but diabetes has been the fastest runner on the It's jumped from there right up to there. That's what happened to diabetes. Stroke has moved down to here. All of these lower respiratory infections, pneumonia and so forth have moved down. With them, complications have moved down. And the other one that I'd like to point out that is quite jumped in this country is chronic kidney disease. And of course, chronic kidney disease and diabetes are very closely related together. What you can see from this diagram is that non-communicable diseases have become the greatest killers in our country. I think you all know this. Everybody knows this. But it's becoming more apparent. Understand? 5 minutes. Okay, I better cut through it. What was I going to try? What am I saying? Yes. So heart diseases, I better run through it quickly. These NCDs are going to be our great killers. NCDs are something that don't happen instantly. They build up over time. They build up because of the poor risk that we have. I'll leave this alone. In this particular slide, I'm looking at different diseases. Let me just check to make sure what disease is which is which. This green one, this green is diabetes. Yes? Yes. Blue is heart. And you can see here the risk factors that lead to these diseases. High body mass index, obesity, it has a huge impact on diabetes, huge impact on heart diseases. Dietary risks, huge impact on heart disease and diabetes. High fasting plasma, the glucose, sugar, having a big impact on heart and diabetes, high blood pressure and so forth. So you can see the point that I'm trying to make here is that when we're trying to know, if we establish a link between health and productivity, you have the diseases, which are the NCDs. We've got to look at the risk factors that lead to those diseases. So if we want to control, from a national point of view, as a Ministry of Health, our target will be to address all of these risk factors, so we can have an impact on the diseases that are facing us. And that, I think, is a challenge not only for the Ministry of Health, but for all of us, because all of these people are working in your organizations. And the way to address these risk factors is to look at the settings where people spend a lot of their time. A lot of our workers are spending time in the workplaces. So we cannot just wait for government to emphasize or to try to advocate for attacking the risk factors that lead to disease. It needs to be something that is addressed all across the country. Nationally, Ministry of Health is trying to do it because we believe if you have a healthy population, it's going to live, it sets the good basis for a more productive country. But I think for all of us, in all entities, we need to look at how do we attack these risk factors? How do we address it? How do we advocate it? How do we put in processes in our own organizations so we can address these risk factors, so we can address the impact it has on the people that work for us? And these are the risk factors that we have all related to that: smoking, nutrition, alcohol, physical inactivity. And I'm very glad that Leonardo has been taking everybody out on exercises, because that's what we need to do. Unfortunately, I couldn't join you because I was a bit sick myself. The other slide that I'm going to show here is showing that the rate at which people die begins to really take off at around the age of 40. And this is also the time when people are most productive in the workplace, because these diseases start catching up. So we need, the focus on the Ministry of Health is to try to see how we can address people at a much younger age. We need to be able to addressing children in schools. That's why there's a lot of focus on work in schools, changing the children, their habits, what food they eat, all these things that they do so that they can have good habits. We also need to address that much stronger in the workplace. So I'm hopeful, I'm glad that I'm here. To all of you top executives, I know a lot of you have very good programs going. Programs on health and wellness, that's an area that we need to focus on much more strongly so we can have an impact on the overall health situation in the country, and also its impact on productivity. I was fascinated with this idea of presenteeism. I never really thought about it. I looked for some more research on it, and here are some astounding figures that I found. This Harvard Business Review estimates that lost productivity due to presenteeism is 7.5 times higher than that of absenteeism. And a lot of you measure absenteeism. We measure absenteeism, we talk about it all the time. But this is what Harvard Business Review is saying. 7.5 times higher. Its impact on productivity. I'm not too sure what we can do about it. I think we just go back to source. We try to prevent them from getting sick in the first place, helping them to be there. And this one astounded me even further. The Sainsbury's Centre for Mental Health in the UK estimates that the cost based on presenteeism may be 50% to 500% greater than the estimate of cost based on absenteeism alone. Those are huge things. These are huge things, and if they're true, but I think that they're true, these are very reputable organizations that are making this statement. It's something that we have to have a concern about and we need to focus on. I think the other area that is of concern of us also, if you looked at that earlier slide that I showed, it showed the impact of depression on the workforce. This is a hugely underreported thing in Fiji. We believe that from the studies that has been shown that the treatment gap in Fiji is estimated, depression, for instance, is now globally the third leading contributor to global disease burden. And all the mental health specialists believe that it's climbing in Fiji. So it's something we need to address. It can be addressed during the workplace and other places. But in terms of treatment gap, for those that are with severe mental health problems, we believe that only 89.7% of those that should be treated are not being treated. They're not being presented. The problems are not being recognized, so that they are not being treated. So that's going to be a major issue for us. Ministry of Health's focus on health and productivity, our focus is just a healthier population. If we can have a healthier population, we believe it's just the basis for a more productive population. And the focus, lastly, the focus that we like to move to is more focus on prevention, focus on primary health, focus on teaching people what they do, what they should do, help them to go there, create an environment in which they can do things well. The focus is on, sometimes we focus too much on just looking after the sick people. Our emphasis needs to be not just look at the sick people, look at the ones that are well and see what we can do to keep them well. To keep them well, so that you slow the rate at which slow or reduce the rate of low risk people becoming medium risk or higher risk. And that, I think, has to be the focus not only for the Ministry of Health but also for all of us in Fiji. All companies, see how you can prevent these things from happening. But other than that, it's also about looking at the curative, curing those that are sick, rehabilitating those who have been sick. And I believe that for health, it is something that cannot be addressed by any government ministry alone. It is something that has to be addressed by all of us. We have to take a whole of society approach to health. And for enterprises, as I mentioned before, we believe the workplace is an important setting for health protection. Most people spend, if you work 5 days a week, you spend maybe 1/3, 2/3 of your time, waking time in the workplace. This is where efforts can be made to advocate for health. We've talked about employers need to look at absenteeism and presenteeism, and I think the only way that you can do that is by focusing on helping them maintain their wellness, maintaining their being healthy, so that you don't get these kind of costs. And the last point that we have there is strengthen the health in occupational health and safety. Occupational health and safety is something that's very important, and if it's done well, there have been some that have said that it also contributes to productivity growth or reduction of productivity loss, but I haven't seen any empirical evidence of that. But all in all, health and productivity, I believe that there is a strong linkage. How do we address it? We address it by looking at the health of our population. For all of you running organizations, your main asset that you have is the people that work for you. How healthy they are, what knowledge that they have, how they share that knowledge, how they interact with one another. If we can improve that, we can maintain that, we should, I believe, be able to have a good impact on productivity. Is that right?
Thank you very much, Mr. Usamate. Korolevu.